And some of the words that are going to go into lines are some thank yous. I have a number of thank yous that I need to make. And the first one, of course, is to Terry and Neil, Frontenac House, for showing their support for me and my book, my work, by publishing this book. Frontenac's been my publishing home since 2001, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you to Alice Major and Wayman Chan and Sherry D. Wilson for the wonderful words that you've given me to put on the back of my book. Your support and your caring all the way along has meant a great deal to me. So thank you, all of you. I also want to thank Richard Harrison and Lisa Rouleau. They've been friends of ours, I guess, for 25 years. A long time, Richard. Richard has supported me and my work throughout those 25 years with lots of encouragement and the use of his excellent editing skills to make the poems the best that they could be. I think, too, I need to say that probably this book would not have happened, or would have happened very differently, if it hadn't been for the encouragement that I got from Richard during and after Marilyn's hospital visit. I also want to thank Lisa, because theirs was the phone number I dialed on Christmas Eve morning, 2013, at 5:30 in the morning, when I had been told by the doctor that Marilyn wasn't expected to live throughout that day. I didn't know who I could or should talk to, and I don't remember a damn thing that I said, but Lisa was there, she answered the phone, and I know she did talk to me. And I really appreciate the care, the concern, and the fact that she answered the phone at 5:30 in the morning. So thank you very much, Lisa. I've got a bunch of more thank yous that I want to give out as well. But before I do, I'd like to share a bit more of the poetry that's in the book. The impact statement is laid out, I think, pretty much chronologically from that day in November 2013 when Marilyn collapsed in the parking lot to roughly the end of 2019, I guess. Most of you know that I was at Mount Royal University taking part in a reading event, and Marilyn had dropped me off, and she'd gone off to do some early Christmas shopping. And the event was over. I was waiting for Marilyn, and she was late.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Yes, she is notorious for being late.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was getting a little impatient, and one of the things I want to mention is, you know the characters in movies who always seem to answer the phone and get some bad news, and their knees start to buckle, and they wind up lying on the floor or in a chair or something like that. And I always thought those scenes were melodramatic and rather overdone. And that is until it happened to me. And I had opened my cell phone, turned it back on. I was just about to call Marilyn to find out where she was when I got the phone call Is this Bob? I'm the social worker at the Foothills ER. Been calling you for 30 minutes. Your wife is here. We need you here now. She might not make it. I don't remember much of the trip from Mount Royal to the Foothills Hospital, but I guess I got there all right. I do remember walking into the ER, meeting the social worker who'd phoned me, and there were two great big city police officers standing there, each of them with a bag of birdseed in their hands, which I guess Marilyn was about to put in the car when she collapsed in the parking lot. And so they picked them up and they've been carrying them around ever since. Anyway, I spent, I don't know how long in the ER. And eventually the social worker escorted me up to the waiting area for the ICU. And I spent some time wandering around there. And eventually I got in to see Marilyn. The question the doctor asked me in the ICU, if he doesn't give you the clot-busting drugs, you die for sure. If he does, you might bleed to death. You lie unconscious between us, and because I am here, so is the question, what should he do? The answer is easy. Just fix this. Then the answer he can use, the only one I can give, but not the only one that could have been. 254 days later, when we get home from the hospital, I tell you, I'm glad you're back. And you say, so am I. And then, thank you, as if you heard. I had no intention, actually, I remember this, of going home that first night. I wasn't going to leave ICU. But after midnight, the nurses got tired of me, I guess, and they started trying to get me to leave. And my sister-in-law was there as well. And she started to get me to focus on how I was going to leave. And I had to find a car. I had to find our car. Mm-hmm. So I called a friend, and he and his daughter went to the parking lot, found our car, and brought it back to his daughter's place. And my sister-in-law drove me up to the house to get the car. I remember as well that it was snowing and it was cold. And I think when I got into the car, I started it and I drove off, leaving my friend standing in the middle of the street in the snowstorm. And as I drove down the street and started home. Driving back home that night, the car that night, blacker than the inside, inside the 2 a.m. dark between the lampposts, reaching the dirt melted snow at the curb. I went through every damn pool of white light that spilled along those curbs, pushing dark and dirt through the sewer grates. I howled at the white light hanging in the blanketed sky. The world had me in its mouth, and I wanted it to finish the job before I got to the empty house. Christmas was spent in the hospital. And Christmas in my life, anybody who knows me knows that Christmas is an important part of my life, my world. And after we got married and Marilyn discovered how much Christmas meant to me, she made it her part of her life to make Christmas special for both of us. Christmas. The hospital phones, 2 a.m., tells me I need to be there. The doctor on call tells me they are doing everything they know how to do. I show them I still have tears I haven't used. Tell the doctor, you are all I have left. One of the things that happened to Marilyn on a regular basis, every couple of days,
Mhm.
was that she was taken from her room down to the dialysis unit. And unfortunately for her, every time they took her down to the dialysis unit, her blood pressure would crash. And the dialysis unit got to the point where they wanted to send her back to ICU. And us, within sight of the harbor, they repeat over the intercom, code 66, dialysis unit, second floor, code 66. Somebody is having trouble breathing, dialysis unit, second floor. That's where you are. They want to send you back to the ventilator in ICU. You have already said you won't go. I went through all kinds of emotions and thoughts and all kinds of stuff. I've always thought of myself as being somewhat irreligious, at least ever since I was a teenager. And yet, one of the things that I have worn is a tiny silver cross around my neck. Richard noticed the cross, of course, lots of times. And when I was looking for something to write about, he said to me, "Why do you wear a cross?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Yes, you do. And I want you to write about it." The beggar. So long I've told myself I don't believe, don't pray, don't ask, don't even pretend. I'm the same as all the others who don't believe until there is no one else. I'm begging out loud. To whom? My neighbors? Their homes turned dark hours ago. They cannot hear. Their doors are locked. The rooms in our house, foreign places, full of shadows of things no longer known. I turn every light in the house, as if doing so I will find you and not your absence standing there. For tonight, if there is someone who cares, someone to listen, and God knows I need someone to listen, I will beg, I will believe. The time came where, we knew that Marilyn was going to get better. We didn't know what that looked like. We had no idea what that was going to look like. But we knew it was going to happen and she was going to come home. Even with all of the positives that were happening at that point, I still found myself getting angry from time to time. Impact statement. At night, between the lights off and dreams, I could tell you I want it back the way it was. When you had calendar squares filled, words, arrows, numbers, reminders to both of us of our past and future. When we would decide in 20 minutes to drive 200 kilometers just for the hell of it. When I was so sure I wouldn't have to fill all of the air in our house, the flatness in our bed by myself. I wanted back all of it. I could tell you how robbed I feel. Thank God you have already fallen asleep. Marilyn came home on July 31st, 2014. And I remember the night we left the hospital because she'd been on the dialysis unit and I was taking her down to the front door of the special services building in a wheelchair. And we got to the lobby and I stopped for a minute and she looked back over her shoulder and said, "I'm getting up." "What do you mean you're getting up?" He said, "I'm getting up. I'm walking out of this damn building." And she stood up and got the wheelchair in front of her and walked through the front doors and out to the car at the side of the road. Once she got home, she wanted to do the sort of things she'd already been doing before. And one of those things was to come out in the yard and help me in the gardens. Now, you need to know, Marilyn never, ever gardens. If she does anything like that, it's cleaning. Something more that you can do. Today you asked if you could help, said you could water the flowers by the front door. You stood holding that hose, watered lily of the valley, cedar tree, peony, and hosta. Your face, the most beautiful flower breaking into bloom. She's been home now for almost 6 years. And those 6 years have been full of ups and downs, some hairpin turns. And sometimes it felt like we were taking 1 or 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. But she is home. And in those 6 years, we've learned, or certainly I've learned, some kind of neat lessons. One of them is about friendship, and one of them follows this. This garden. The rose bush I bought the day you came home from the hospital blooms again for the 4th year. Last night I combed leftover summer from the wildflower bed I made to mark 1 year home. We planted sweet peas, hoping they would climb their stories into colors we would use to celebrate. This garden teaches me relearn to love. Now a couple more thank yous, if you don't mind. I'd like to thank the Thursday Night Poetry Group for their patience, their kindness, their support while I was rambling around in free writes and draft poems, and always you were there to listen. So thank you. And thank you also to the friends on Facebook for leaving notes and posting comments, making phone calls, and even leaving care packages on our front steps while Marilyn was in the hospital. And I have one more person who I can't fail to thank for everything, and that's Marilyn. The poems in the book, I think, are mostly my reaction to what was going on. But what was going on was happening to her. So I can remember an afternoon when I was sitting beside your bed, and you kept saying to me, "This is hard. This is so hard. Thank you for not deciding that day that you had had enough of needles and tubes and doctors and nurses and feeling sicker than you've ever felt before. Thank you for fighting until you could breathe, feed yourself, wash yourself, dress yourself, walk and talk. Thank you for coming home with me."
So pretty. Thank you, sweetheart. Thanks, sweetie. It's gorgeous. Look at that.
Thank you. What a way to celebrate a new book, my book. Thank you all for coming out tonight and listening to the poems in the book. Neil, have you got some information you want to give out?
You have to click on it.
Okay, I just unmuted myself. Anyone that wants to chat, unmute yourself. The only stuff I have to say is thank you, Bob. Thank you, Marilyn, both of you, for making this happen. Thank you for writing this book, Bob. And I hope all of you enjoyed yourself as much as you can in a Zoom conference like this. If you want to unmute yourself and ask questions and talk to Bob, now's the time to do it. Again, books are available at Owl's Nest for those of you that that arrived here late. I will put up a shared screen so that it'll kind of, I shall do that right now.
Nobody was here.
And there we go. Books are available at Owl's Nest. They're available at other stores as well, but if you use the code LAUNCH when you order, you'll get a signed copy from Bob. And on the right-hand there, you'll see that we've also got a package. I bundled all of the books that Bob has published with Frontenac House. And as I said at the beginning, this book is awesome. The other books are damn fine, bordering on awesome. So if you want to get a really good deal and get a really good insight into our friend Bob, Optics from a Call Box, Things That Matter Now, and Impact Statement, $34.95, cheap at twice the price.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Okay, I saw a couple of chat comments in here, and I've responded to one of them from Braden Mans. I'm so glad you were able to come, and I know that you disappeared again because you have another meeting to go
Yes,
to.
that's right.
And similarly from Alice Major.
There, isn't it?
Yes. You still here?
That's Brady.
You're still here.
There, yeah.
Dr. Mans is Maryland's nephrologist, and
He kept me alive.
he has guided us through this complicated maze that we're going through. Thanks again for the congratulations, Lori. Appreciate it always. Your opinion is important, and the comments from Sherry D. and Joan Shillington, Crystal McKenzie. Thanks again for all of that. Thank you for all of them. You know,
Sherry D. Bonnie Brightly.
I said at one point that this was the hardest book I have ever tried to write. And it is. It still brings up ghosts that I have to deal with from time to time. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad Richard Harrison encouraged me to do it. And I'm very glad that, of course, that he helped, that he edited the thing for me.
Yeah.
But this was an experience that I needed to go through, and I really appreciate it. So, and I appreciate all of the support from everybody here.
Thank you. Look at all of the neat people. Michelle. Great. Thank you. Look at them all. Did you respond to each one of them personally?
Well,
It's from Brian Pearson.
where's Brian Pearson?
Brian Pearson right there.
Here he is, yeah. Thank you, Brian Pearson, for your comment. Has anybody got anything they want me to respond to verbally here, orally, I should say, as opposed to trying to catch up with all of the comments in chat?
As I've said, if you guys, anybody that's participating, if you want to unmute yourself, feel free, and let's get this party started.
Now, where's the booze, Neil?
Can't have it anyway.
I hear I'll pour it in there.
Bob, it's Linda in Lethbridge.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Fantastic book. Almost as good as You Know What.
Yeah, that one poem that I wrote years ago.
Marilyn, thanks for coming back to us. And Bob, thanks for writing about it.
Leave him alone.
How are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks for being there, Linda.
you're welcome.
So anyway, yes, we have this whole thing. I told somebody not too long ago. This thing could have either pushed us apart or drawn us together. And thankfully, for me at least, it's drawn us together. I hope it's been the right thing to do for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be afraid if it wasn't.
Yes, I know.
So the book is now out there.
It's out there, yeah.
And
You've launched your baby out to the world.
up to the world to decide whether they like it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm pleased with it. I really am pleased with it. So, any other comments?
Thanks, Bob.
You want to throw a tomato? What's
I
that?
think you had a question on the chat, Bob. If you look at the chat, it says from Julia Melnick, what does Marilyn think of the book? That was from the chat that I just noticed.
Yeah. Well, it's all about me, so I like it.
It's a good answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. Okay.
Bob, there's
Yeah.
also a request to read another poem, maybe Marilyn's favorite.
Oh my, I can't.
That's a good idea.
I like them all. Let me see. Let me get back to you.
Back on your screen.
Bob, thanks from a fan in Edmonton, a longtime fan of yours. It's Shirley Service.
thank you. Thank you for dropping in. I appreciate it.
Wouldn't miss it.
Well, thanks very much for that. I'm trying to catch up to all of these wonderful comments that people have put on the chat line. One of the things that I am known for a long time is that I had a great deal of difficulty trying to read. So I don't read quickly at the best of times. And trying to catch up with these comments is
It's
tricky for me.
Yeah. Now, would you want to read a poem? Read this one.
Oh, she wants me to do a very short
Worry
poem
Stone.
called Worry Stone. The hardest worries to keep contained are the ones in the shape of a heart. I was lucky enough when Marilyn was on the medical unit at the beginning of this whole thing. I was not doing very well myself, and it was almost Christmas time. One of the nurses brought me a worry stone.
Have you got it in your pocket now?
No.
Okay.
And it's in the shape of a heart. And I carried that all throughout the 8.5 months that Marilyn was in the hospital, and I still carry it. She didn't say anything. She just put it in my hand and turned around and walked away. And when I finally got my wits about me again, I thought that was one of the kindest, neatest things she could have done. Anybody could have done.
Yeah.
So, that's where that poem comes from. It's trying to say something about that worry stone.
Is there some comments?
Yeah.
I have a question, Bob, if you have time. It's Alec here.
I've got all the time in the world.
Alex,
I got all the time. Well, I mean, amazing job. Thank you so much for the reading. And I'm glad we were able to have it in this newfangled technology.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's something, eh?
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, I was around the table for a lot of the early scratchings and free writings that became this book, and it's been a journey. It's been a 7-year journey for this book to reach tonight, and I'm just amazed and thrilled to see it. Right? This is one of my most anticipated books probably in my whole life, so I'm really, really happy to see it.
sweetheart.
And I know you really were writing it as a book of poems, right? And not necessarily as one, but I'm just wondering, my question would be, is there like one poem in the book that's like, that speaks to you the most, or is the most meaningful for you, your favorite, that just stands out to you, the one poem?
It's like saying which of your children is your favorite child.
Yeah.
But I think there is one, and I think it's impact statement. I was really lucky. I was taking part in a thing called When Words Collide a number of years ago and I was on a panel with Richard, and each of the panelists was going to read 2 or 3 poems, and one of the poems that I read was impact statement. Only I didn't have a title for it at the time. And after the session was over, we got out in the hallway and we were talking, and Richard said, "I think I have a title for your poem." And he told me that it was impact statement that he was thinking of. Well, it hit me like a ton of bricks that it was the right title for that poem. And right after that, I realized it was also the title for the book. So I think if I had any poem in the book that stands out more than others, it would be that one. Having said that, there are 2 or 3, 4 other poems about questioning whether or not there was a God and trying to talk to somebody that I didn't know whether they were there or not. And they also stand out as a very close second to that impact statement.
Thank you. Good answer.
Thanks for the question.
You're welcome.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
I had an email from Betty Jane Hegarat this afternoon, and I know she's in here, and I've asked her if she wants to ask her your question directly, or if I will, and she hasn't got back to me, so I'm just going to assume that she wants me to. What she's asking is, Bob, I know this has been a long, long journey, and yet each of these intensely moving poems seems so much in the moment. Were they written very close in time to the experiences or sometime later? And she finishes this, whatever the answer, when I look at the page, I see the ink in a deep red color, pumping straight from your heart.
Lovely.
Well, thank you, Betty. And Betty was one of the people who was as involved with this as I guess as you could be, without actually being part of my immediate family. The poems, some of them were started while we were still going through it, before Marilyn got home from the hospital, but many of them were not. Many of them I had to take anywhere from a month to 6 months to a year before I could actually put anything down on the page that seemed even like a good free write. Sometimes they were just way too close for me to actually be able to do much with them before I could back up and get another look at them with a little less emotion in it. Yeah, I think that's the answer. Some of them I got more or less right away, at least got a free write out of them. Some of them I didn't. Some of them took a long time.
Thanks for that, Bob.
Thank you for the question. I really, like I said, this book was the toughest book that I had to write, and this is, I think, I remember thinking at one point that the death of a parent was probably the worst thing one could go through, until I started going through this. And I realized very quickly that I hadn't even gotten close to what the worst thing in the world for me might be until this came along. And I said earlier that I felt that Richard had had a great deal to do with the fact that this book even existed. And I think he does, because one of the things I remember, I got called back to the hospital 2:00 in the morning. I don't remember what time it was, but Marilyn was having trouble. And I remember walking down this long green fluorescent lit corridor in the hospital. And I got to a corner and I turned the corner, and as I did, I said out loud, "I don't give a shit if I never write another word." And then I kept on going and dealt with whatever was going on with Marilyn. But when Richard said, "Come back to the poetry table, I think you need to come back," I was really unsure whether or not I was going to be able to do anything. And there were several poetry nights where, when everybody else was madly scribbling away in their scribblers or journals, I was just sitting there wondering what in blazes I was doing. And it was with Richard's encouragement and foresight that this book really even exists at all. Because he was the one who said, "Why don't you start?" And thank heaven I did.
Mhm.
And we're very glad and grateful you did.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Giving him up again.
I think I'm grateful I did too, or thankful I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it certainly needed to be done, and we have an elderly friend who is a retired nurse, and one of the things that she started doing before Marilyn got out of the hospital was to say, you have to write about this. So there was encouragement coming from other places as well as Richard and the poetry table.
Oh, Julia.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anybody else got questions that you'd like to have me try to stumble my way through an answer?
I have one for you, Bob.
Okay.
And that is sometimes when you write a book, and especially something as personal as this, I would think, you put so much into it, it drains you. You feel really wrung out at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm wondering if there's a sense of border crossing, a sense of moving on from one place to another with the finishing of this book. Or like, what's your response to having the book finished?
I think it's all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, when we finished it, when we put the manuscript together, and I sent it into Frontenac House, and they came back with, yes, we will do it. There was a huge, huge sense of relief. And I think for a couple of nights at least, when I went to sleep, I slept right through till 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, which is unusual for me, because I was tired. There's also the change to crossing borders. Yep. Now I found that a little more difficult with this book because of the fact that I seem to keep getting ghosts popping up that I didn't expect to have happen, but I think this is also moving on, and it will be less ghosty, I hope, as time goes on.
Well, I can attest to the fact that when I phoned Bob and told him that Frontenac was prepared to publish this book, I was very surprised to hear a very, very, very delighted yippee in the background. And I don't know who that was, Marilyn, but there was a couple of very excited people on the other end of the phone, and it was very gratifying.
Yeah, well, she was as excited or more so than me at that
Well,
point.
her yippee was pretty loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and one of the things that is nice about great, I don't know what the adjective is I should use, but Marilyn has always been that way, right from the get-go. It was her suggestion that I try to become a writer, and her support all the way along that made it financially possible that we could do it, and emotionally possible we could do it, because there were some people in my more extended family who didn't think what I was doing was worth much. So, when Marilyn goes yippee, I know I've done something right.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Bob, we may have met possibly at When Words Collide. I've been affiliated with IFAW for many years, and I'm emerging slowly from my own little closet of, writing poetry. And I was wondering, how did you, that first time that you decided to publish a book of poetry, what really sealed the deal for you to know it was the right thing?
When I started writing, I'd walked away from a real job, a social work job, and gone from I don't know what it was at the point, 32,000 or whatever a year to zero in less than a month. And I really didn't know whether I could be a writer or not. I knew that I could write government reports because I had done lots of those, but that wasn't quite the same thing. And I really don't think I had big goals. My first thought was, gee, it would be nice if I could write a poem. And I started doing that, and all of them, in fact, were rejected, which is probably a good thing. And I took some workshops, but I went from writing a poem to maybe I could write more than one poem. And maybe I could get one published in a magazine. And it was quite literally step by step. I never thought once that, my goal is to get a book of poetry published. I approached it more, I would go to book launches, other people's book launches, and I would come home and say to myself, gee, I wonder, wouldn't it be nice if? And eventually I got to the point where I had enough poems to make a manuscript. And I was talking to another writer, a very well-known poet here in town, on the phone one day, and she said to me, what are you doing? And I said, well, I've got one more edit on my manuscript, and then I'm going to send it out. And her comment to me was, and what are you going to do when they reject it? No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, send it out. If they reject it, they do. If they don't, you've got some work to do. And at that point, that's when I went downstairs, turned on the printer and the computer, and printed the darn thing out and fired it off.
Yeah.
And it was accepted, but not by Frontenac at that point, but because Frontenac didn't even exist at that point. But that's a long-winded answer to your question, but it really is the kind of process that I went through. It was not I'm here to write a book and by God, it's going to happen in the next week. Yeah. Kind of thing.
I thank you, Bob, and you're a huge inspiration.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I think just keep going. And when you've got a bunch of poems, you can start to think about whether or not they fit together as a manuscript. But you don't have to. You don't have to be in a hurry, and that was advice given to me. And don't be in a hurry to publish a book. Take your time, learn your craft, and whatever craft you think you've learned, there's a hell of a lot more out there to learn. So just keep working and keep learning, and when you're ready, when you think you're ready, send something out and see what happens. Did that help?
All I can say is thank you so much for those words of wisdom, and I'll just say it's Jennifer Slaviota, and I may reach out to you at some point, and I hope that
I'll respond.
It's just, how many books have you got published now?
This is my 5th poetry book, and I actually have an ebook as well that needs a great deal of work to bring it up to date. but I have an ebook as well, a nonfiction one.
Sweet. Thank you.
Well, you're most welcome, and by all means, reach out when you're ready.
I will.
Okay. Anybody else? Got things you want to throw a tomato?
Hello, you two lovebirds. It's Linda and
Hello.
Perry here.
Hello.
I know it's been a hard journey, but I'm so glad that we met you through this journey, and congratulations on your book, Bob.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, it was a journey, and you know, we did take over your fireplace for a while in the hospital.
Yep.
When you Perry left before Marilyn did.
Yeah.
So
We took
when
over your spot.
we
in
took
the
over your
fireplace.
spot after you guys left.
Yep. Downstairs in the basement. Yep.
So anyway, glad we're not going back there for a while.
Yep.
So are we. So are we.
Yeah, we've been there long. We were there long enough.
Yeah.
So it was a long time, I tell you. Seemed longer for me, I guess, than it did for Marilyn, but it was a long time for both of us.
Is there anyone else who wants to talk?
Anybody else got something you want to pitch at me? And there's Tyler Perry. Hi, Tyler. You know, any other questions about getting work done or poetry, getting poetry published or anything like that?
Where to buy the book? Sorry.
Where to buy the book?
Um,
You can get the book from Owl's Nest in Britannia Shopping Center.
It's
they
available
also-
at the other bookstores, but the special deal of getting an autographed copy is at Owl's Nest. So
Yeah.
and they're great people, so buy books from them.
yeah, that's Michael's store, isn't
I
it?
think Neil is threatening to drop a box of books on my foot tomorrow morning so I can start to get
Signing
registered.
them, yeah.
Hello, Bob. This is Anna Miodochowska from Edmonton.
Hello.
And where can I get an autographed book?
Well, if you want to go through Owl's Nest, you can get an autographed book from them. Then I think I'm safe in saying, aren't I, Neil, that they would send it to you.
Yeah.
They will put it in the book is slim enough that it qualifies as letter mail. So they can ship it to Edmonton at pretty reasonable cost. So yeah, absolutely. If you order it through Owl's Nest Books, I'll put their address back up on the screen for a minute, and then you can write down the information and get some books. Just use the code launch, or if you're ordering it by telephone, just tell them you want a signed copy. They'll make sure it happens for you.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for wanting a copy of the book.
Bob, this is Jan Boydell.
Hello.
Lovely to see you and Marilyn there, and it was just awesome as expected.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Jan. Jan was also one of the people who was pretty close to this whole thing during the 8.5 months that Marilyn was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that.
There you go.
Okay, Megan, Richard, are you itching to say something there?
No.
No, you've been muted.
You've been muted, Richard.
Oh, hi. No, well, I just saw the share screen, so I'm over in the corner now as far as I can see. Here's the book. There you go.
Yeah.
It's for real. It's out there in the world.
It is.
Yeah.
So on behalf of Bob and myself, congratulations, Bob. It has been wonderful, painful, but wonderful to be part of this project and part of this writing. When I always said that, thought about poetry or thought about art as our answer to suffering.
Mhm.
You and Marilyn suffered a great, great deal, and you came through it, and then you brought this gift back to us all. So thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you very much, Richard. Yeah, you, as you know, you were there, and you did a lot to get this project put together and get it out into the world. So thank you for that too. Any other questions or comments? I can see some. It's wonderful to see some science fiction fantasy folks here. So, thank you very much for coming out to that, for this. I really appreciate that too. So, anybody else? There is somebody here. He's still here, but at one point, this individual who I have met through a very strange and circuitous route, really. He was an Anglican priest, Anglican minister, and he got wind of, I don't remember how, but he got wind of the fact that Marilyn was in the hospital, and
He showed up.
He showed up,
Yep, on my unit.
and Marilyn was still in ICU,
Yeah.
and I'm in her room. It's in the evening, I think, and all of a sudden the intercom comes on, and the nurse at the front desk says, "Bob, your priest is here." And I looked at the wall and thought, my priest? Yeah, I know I wear a cross, but the nurse wouldn't have seen that. Who the hell's my priest? And he turned out to very carefully have put on his dog collar for that particular visit. And it got him in when probably nothing else would have. Yeah. So I appreciate that. That's one of the stories that I live on.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
Okay, I think we're going to kind of wrap this up.
I think, yeah.
We're running low on questions, and I think Bob and Marilyn are getting kind of tired. So unless there's any big questions coming up from anybody, thank you all for coming out, taking some time, or actually not so much coming out, but taking some time out of your busy schedules to welcome this book into the world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. It means a great deal to both of us.
Yeah.
That you were able to do that for us. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bob. Marilyn. Oh, there's clapping.
Yep, I heard the clapping.
Toast with you with champagne if I had some.
I'd drink some if I had some too, but
we can't.
that isn't going to happen. So
We might have to work on that one.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And we're going to leave the meeting now. Take care. Thank you, Neil,
Thank
again.
you.
And we will see you all somewhere soon, I hope.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow when I drop books off.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Wave now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Congratulations, Bob.
Bye,
Again.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Love you.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.